Narc child, narc parents do not love you. They don't care about you, and they view you as their enemy. Competition. Now you might think one might love you more than the other. Unfortunately, sometimes someone they might be semi-healthy ends up becoming toxic, and then the toxicity grows. The codependent one, they doesn't love you. You know, you might have a mother or something that would stand with your father who's doing the abuse. And as soon as you start to stand up for yourself, they might say, "Oh, you're buckling down. You're buckling. You're weak." Let me tell you something. Weakness is not um, standing up for yourself and being aggressive in return. Weakness is turning the other cheek when people are abusing you. Now, obviously, in different environments, you have to take this advice differently, in a work environment or whatever. Like the one I'm currently in seems to be pretty good. I just finished my first full week there, so nothing's happened there. That seems to be pretty good there. And yeah, so if people are trying to do that, first of all, confrontation followed by talking to management. You know, you don't want to get all aggressive at someone in a work environment because it's not the environment. And if you're in my position, you need that money. You need the money. Yes, I got goals and stuff like that. But yeah, for now, you need the money. And so, why am I reading this? Why am I saying this? It just came to mind because I was not because of anything I read in the book. Oh, and in a way, one of the things I read in this book makes me think about it, but it has nothing to do about it behind why they wrote it. But this book goes for the All Blacks Legacy book. I'm a bit late on purchasing this. It came out in 2013, but the All Blacks, there's been 3 Rugby World Cup nine Rugby World Cup tournaments in rugby history. Rugby is one of the national sports here in New Zealand, and it's the national. It's like because there's rugby, cricket, and netball. Pretty much is the national sports here, and it's the same in. I don't know about same, but sports, but rugby is for New Zealand, South Africa, England, Wales, and France, and obviously England's got the soccer as well, and in cricket they did pretty well. The cricket, I know they did very well with the cricket. They won the World Cup. They beat us in the final, and semi-final they beat us, but it doesn't really hurt because it's been, as I say, it's been 9 Rugby World Cup tournaments, and England's won 1, we've won 3, so it's all good. And before then, I remember seeing the All Blacks play England about 10 times, and we won 9 of them. So that means that I remember England beating us twice out of 11 games now. So, but it's been a year no contact. It's been over a year no contact, and I've come a long way. And a year no contact. There was more anger as a result of not having, being in this situation, but it was yeah, because you know what, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. Because hate means that you had a need and someone was in your life Like maybe like when you're born into a family, that's not by your making, or whatever. Or sometimes you're in a situation where you didn't cause anything to happen, but caused something to happen, and then you were in a situation where you really needed, like, your basic needs, and at that time you were unable to give that to yourself, so you had this need for this other person to fulfill, and either they blatantly didn't fulfill it because they had an issue with you, or they just didn't fulfill it because they wanted to go about their life and do their own thing. As a result of that, you came to the point where you hated them. Indifference means you didn't need them in the first place. Indifference means there was no need for them in the first place, and because they didn't give you what you wanted, you didn't need it, so you didn't care. So that's the opposite of love. But that doesn't mean that you wish any harm on them. It just means life goes on. It is what it is. And I'm like that in many ways to my parents. But here's something. The All Blacks say now this is why it's like I can't wait to develop friendships, but there's a healing period where it's only been 1 year no contact, so of course everyone showed their true colours and I lost pretty much everyone in my life. So here we go. For the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack. For the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack. I might as well read this. Owen Eastwood says that if the first steps in developing a high performance culture are to select on character, understand your strategy for change, co-write a purpose, develop leadership, devolve leadership, and encourage a learning environment. Okay, it's everything in a team, to be honest, says All Black legend Andrew Mertens. Andrew Mertens went to 2 World Cups. He was one of the All Blacks when I was at primary school. It's okay. It's everything in a team, to be honest. It's everything in a team, to be honest, says All Black legend Andrew Mertens. It's about thinking about the team's interest before yourself. If it's not good for the team, don't say it and don't do it. On the another page. A great player can only do so much on his own, said Jackson in his book Sacred Hoops. No matter how breathtaking his one-on-one moves, if he is out of sync psychologically with everyone else, the team will never achieve the harmony needed to win a championship. And the whakatauki, which means the proverb, a wise proverb, that's what it means. But Māoris were here when the British got here. And the British signed a treaty with the Māoris back in 1840. So that's 181 years ago now. Anyway, they used to have wise sayings from the wise elders and stuff. So one of the whakataukis was Amuri ki mua. Sorry, I'm not reading it, I'm doing this as well as that. Because I kōrero te reo Māori, ko te reo Māori tōku reo tuarua, no reira, ka kōrero au I ngā reo e rua, and kei te whakaako I tētahi anō. So, I speak 2 languages. I'd say I can speak conversational language and things like that for 2 languages, and write in 2 languages, which is English and Māori, but when it comes to, I'm learning a 3rd one. Anyway, Amuri kia mau ki te kawa maro, whanake ake, hold to the spearhead formation of the kawa. So this is stuff that we're missing if you're raised by parents. That's why you go through a phase where you just really hate them. Then you go through this lone wolf stage on healing, because you come to the realization you were alone the whole time. Then there comes memories. of the relatives grooming you and stuff, you know. So, where is it? I'm trying to read it straight out of here so that you guys can, see it for yourself. But here we go. Because I want to hear it straight from the leaders themselves. But there's a quote in here that's, because there's obviously more than 15, but there's 15 players in a rugby team when they put on the field. So there's 15 players. That's why they have 15 chapters, and they have 15 principles and rules that the All Blacks follow on their day-to-day lives. And that's one of them. Leaders are teachers. Another speaker was a man called Willie Apiata, who was because they hire speakers and stuff like that, and they go on these conferences and they do team gatherings, and there's a routine that they have. I'm not sure how often, but now, but it's at least a couple of times a year where they have to put on their old club jerseys that they used to play for when they were little kids, and go to a local sports park, just like your average local sports park. And if there's a pub there or something like that, you don't have to have a drink of beer, but you go there and you sit in the old uniforms of clubs where kids play for, and you sit there and you talk with each other wearing those uniforms, the uniforms of the clubs that you played for, and you talk to each other, just having a catch up, but you have to wear those uniforms except for adult size, and you know the whole purpose of that is to keep them grounded and remember where they come from. So leaders are teachers. Another speaker was a man called Willie Apiata, who was a war veteran. As a recipient of the Victoria Cross, the highest award for gallantry, his medal citation for the action, which took place in a remote valley in Afghanistan, reads. Now, this is obviously one of their more professional getaways, where they're dressed up really good. It says, in total disregard of his own safety, Lance Corporal Apiata stood up and lifted his comrade bodily. He then carried him across the 70 metres of broken, rocky, and fire-swept ground, fully exposed in the glare of battle to heavy enemy fire. Having delivered his wounded companion to relative shelter, B rearmed himself and rejoined the fight in counter-attack. So, the only thing is with these night birds, though, birds of a feather flock together, and they're very selfish. This one for Anton Oliver, was a former All Black, and I can't find it in here, but it's in here because I remember reading it. It might be earlier on, but he says that these men, because at the time the team was young, like how they go through different phases. The team was quite young, and he said these men have got lots of money and they've never had it before, and women are chasing after them. Yet, if you put yourself ahead of the team and you go against the principles this team follows, the boys will fuck you. So, we're supposed to be, and humans have always been involved in tribes. We've always been involved in tribes. And so, therefore, you're involved with tribes. But then, our parents, if they were to be put, described in an animal kingdom, you know how those animals lose the plot and some of them kill their own kids? The only reason why our parents didn't kill us growing up was because there's laws against it. My father made jokes about me being lucky for being born in the New Testament times, because if I was born in the Old Testament times, he would have killed me for being a arrogant child who questions his father. So, But he can't do that because Jesus died for my sins, and I'm lucky, and he's the greatest father in the world. that that comes across that comes across my mind. And you're talking. He's that's fully grown adult talking to a 2-year-old, which was me. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm glad I smacked them over when I was 15, because imagine what it was like for me growing up if I ever spoke up. But that, and then when I did that to him when I was 15, it was because he was, he'd done that a few times to me growing up and stuff, and generally I was obedient and did everything he wanted. But when it got too far, I'd stand up and take it. But then when I was 15, I was the same size as him and started hitting back, and he fell over. So, anyway, let's just leave that. Yes, that's what that thing came up. It's like, and that's what families are supposed to be. They're supposed to be a healthy mother and father that's like puts the needs of the kids ahead of themselves, which is like, wow, I honor all parents that have children and are doing that, and that doesn't mean you give them everything you want, but it does mean that their needs come before yours. If you're not willing to put a child's needs before your own, then at that point of time, until you are willing to do that, or you may never be willing to do that, but you're not ready to be a parent. And there's more honor in acknowledging that and not being a parent than being a parent who has children for the sake of having children and abuses them the whole time. So yeah, if you think that's the enabling parent loves you, no, they don't. No, they don't. And when you, because they knew that all the stuff was happening all along, you find out most parents have saved a bit of money to help their child in different areas, but you'll find that not only have your parents, if you're truly raised well, because I went from the physical stuff and verbal stuff to the verbal stuff and financial, but the financial was not that he took anything from me. He just lied and did all this type of stuff to make me look bad, so I would lose my chances to get it for myself. And so, if you think that that's what's happening, then they don't love you. And you finally get out of home or whatever, or might be not your first time doing that, but when you leave, you find yourself, in a bit of not in a bit of situation, but you're obviously not wealthy, and you're just trying to get on your feet as a result of leaving. And or maybe you left and you had a job, so you're sweet, They might just reply and say, well, we struggled in growing up, and then it's like, why? And then they, you know how it goes. So now, not even your mother loves you. If your mother is a narcissist, she doesn't love you. And if your father is, and she stayed with your father and allowed that to happen, she didn't love you at all. Because I was about to say she didn't love you enough to stand up to him, but so you're what? You're 18, 19, 20, or if you might be a bit older, you might be in your 30s or whatever, and memories and realizations, or and so up until you, like from birth up until the time you left home, they let it happen, did nothing about it, and knew all about it and did nothing. That's not exactly the sign of a loving parent. But you can overcome. 1 year, I mean, like, see, this is me. It came across, and I'm talking like this. It's not like I'm crying or anything, but my response was anger, when I was a lot younger. Just lots of anger. Now I'm like this. Obviously I remember there's some anger there, but whatever. Not much. Especially being 1 year no contact, I can't wait to see what I'm going to be like in a couple more years. Probably just, And you find you grow leaps and bounds 1 year when you get out, because they tell you the world is this way and that. I got told if I ever left home again, once I went back, that I wouldn't survive 6 months. And by the end of 6 months, I'd be dead. Well, it's been over a year and I'm far from dead. I got a full-time job and all that. So, they said I was going to be dead because my rude inability to go out of my way for my parents. Imagine I'm not going to be like for everyone else. So, it's just ridiculous. Just keep you guys heads up, man. Alright. It's all good. Well, this went totally different than what I thought it was going to be. But yeah, things, I'm going to be getting better and better and better. No, the enabling parent does not love you. They might say they love you. They don't love you enough to stand up for you, even though all these things are happening. What type of love is that? But do you know how many people, like, if you switch onto it and you're onto it and you're young, do you know how many people that come from those backgrounds that end up being very successful in life because they have so much drive behind what they're doing? Now, I had the courage to leave the region that I moved to when I was 14. I had, with those people, I had the courage to leave that region when I was in my early 30s, which is this year. If you can do that, when you're 18, 19, you got a 15-year head start of me, and it's not a competition. I actually want you guys to do better. And so much things have opened up for me, like at the job I'm at, only been there 1 week and they've already got me on the combi lift, the front end loader, as well as the forklift, as well as scanning barcodes and serving customers by they say, I want this, and I when they come out the back, I want this, and then they send me up, because I'm in like I'm a yardsman, so I do all that, and it's only been 1 week, because you don't have people trying to hold you down. Well, obviously, there is limits, but you can do all those things, and it's only been 1 week. And yes, I may even try to do something on the side. I'm going to look up about Uber Eats and a couple other things to do on the side, but we'll see how that goes. Okay, see you. And yeah, you might have. I realised that I've achieved half my goals I wrote for myself when I was a kid. Got the other half to go though. Bye bye.